Hey, Derek. Good morning. This is Zan John, and I reached out to you to have you on my show because I saw you on Crow 777, and I was being a law student. I was definitely moved by the in-depth research and the audacity and tenacity you had, to say the least, to look into the legitimacy of uh, uh, the state's powers over its citizens, so to speak. I don't know if you want to start off with that point, but I found that to be very, very interesting because not everything is as it seems. And I know I might be putting words in your mouth, that the government will try and railroad or get away with whatever it can, and they rely on people's ignorance. I'm not saying people are stupid. I'm saying some people are just ignorant to certain things, and the government relies on that.
Yep. Yeah, it's a good way to put it. And also it's a condition that we kind of grew into becoming comfortable with the trust and everything of government. That we don't second guess, we don't double check on things. So if we don't audit the government on its actions, it's going to run like a full profit corporation.
It is, though. I mean, the United States is United States Inc. It's in all caps, like it's a business corporation, as you would see on legal paperwork.
Mhm.
And states they incorporate, towns they incorporate. I don't want to dive too deep into that as far as me explaining it, because it seems you are much more well versed on all of that. I'll let you explain some of that, and then we can get into other issues. But pretty much saying that something is incorporated, it's out for profit, and it's only worried about its shareholders. Am I correct in saying that?
I think that's a pretty good way of putting it, especially if you look at the combined annual financial report of your local state government. You can see what section of that pie chart um, your taxes are contributing to it versus the federal government has a big section of it. So if you think your state government is more beholden to you, you should go look at who's paying more money to your government.
Wow.
So yeah, it's way different than you might imagine.
So what started all of this? Are you an attorney? Are you a law student? Why don't you give a background on yourself, how you got into all this stuff, and I say stuff into this subject that just, I mean, you just keep going down the rabbit hole. It's nuts, looking into this
Yep.
kind of thing. But what inspired
Sure.
you and how did
So
you grow?
for me, starting out, for one, I grew up loving conspiracy theories and stuff like that. You know, back in the '80s, we had a show called Unsolved Mysteries,
Yeah.
sightings, stuff like that. I used to watch that growing up. And then 9/11 happened by the time I was an adult. And then I joined the military and shipped off thinking I was doing the right thing. Went served my country for 12 years in active duty. And I was in Texas, Colorado. That was with the U.S. Army. And then I came back to Michigan to finish up 6 more years with the Army Reserves. And during that time is when I found out that for when I inherited my house from my family I have here,
Yes.
and then when we did the deed transfer, I found out something that was a little strange, seemed a little off.
What
So,
was off? What was off in this deed? What did you notice that wasn't?
so something that always kind of plagued my mind is I didn't understand how you could pay taxes on something and still own it. That didn't seem right to me. So I kind
Yeah.
of looked into that, and me being the conspiracy theorist I am already was kind of looking into alternative explanations for why things were they were the way they were, and I found out the deed is not really a representation of a full title ownership. So the states actually try to retain that and keep
Yeah.
you away from owning your actual property.
That's exactly it. It doesn't make sense. It's like, okay, perfect example. You own your refrigerator. Are you paying taxes on that
Right,
every year? What's the
right,
difference? So if we have to pay taxes on land or property like that, it makes you wonder, do we really own it? Do we own it? Do
right,
it's quasi ownership that no one raised any red flags and just went along with? Because if you don't pay your taxes, I know farmers that got in a bind, not that they're irresponsible at all. That's not what I'm implying in any way. I just always want to safeguard myself and say things like that. Nothing against farmers, but you've had farmers that have massive plots of land, couldn't pay their taxes, unfortunately, not out of spite or anything, probably had a bad growing season or something, you never know. And
right.
that land is taken back by the state and then auctioned off, or the state will use it for its own purposes or whack it up however, carve it up however they want. But it's
Yep.
like, did you really own it in the first place? It's almost like an annual lease. You got to release it, like, and then your taxes can go up. The government will vote on, state and municipal, they'll vote to have a tax hike. I know just recently here where I'm from, they cranked up the taxes 2 years ago.
Mhm.
I think like threefold, and it's like, you don't pay your taxes, man. Sayonara, I mean,
Yeah.
the government's coming.
And here's what I recently discovered with that is when you go to your county court, say you want to challenge their right to tax the property,
Yes.
when they try to put you through, they'll put you through forfeiture, and they'll do a show cause hearing and foreclosure hearing, and you'll never be summoned to any of it.
By design, huh? It's that way that you don't show up. That way you don't know when it's
Right.
going to happen,
So
right?
you're not legally present. They'll tell you there's going to be a hearing here on this day against this property. You can come speak about it if you want. So they're
Yeah.
suing the property itself, not you, for the money.
That's exactly it. Yeah, they completely rely on us not being well informed. Another reason I was inspired to go to law school and further understand. But I still think, even me saying to go to law school, it's not like it's a pat on the back. I mean, they really only teach you the academia side. I mean, they don't teach you how to make money. They don't really focus too much on how to pass the bar. It's kind of like you got to deal with that teacher's ego and what they feel is important. I mean, I don't know. I feel that law school isn't all that it's cracked up to be. I mean, it's a good thing, but it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
There's something that I had noticed because I try to watch a lot of YouTube videos of law schools online between Yale, Stanford, and I have a Virginia Law, and also Josh Blackman. I don't know if you heard of him.
No, write it down.
He's a pretty famous.
Wow.
Josh Blackman.
Okay.
He's pretty famous with property law and constitutional law. He's been on the news, all that. So when I watch him teach his young law school students what property law means, he never talks about land patents. That was the original design from our founding fathers of how to own land. And when it was under a federal land patent, the states couldn't tax it. We had the right to exclude them from our land.
But if it's a federal land patent, could the federal tax still tax it, or?
They would have had a hell of a time trying to. Now they could. What they did do a couple times was impose a property tax of everything you owned, but it was to raise emergency funds to fight France at one point. That's actually what started our U.S. Navy. But they had a certain financial goal in mind. This was from John Adams way back in the day. He said, once we raise $2 million, it's done. We're not going to use the tax anymore. So it only happened whenever there was a war between our quick war we had with France right after England, and then 1812, and then Civil War.
Just to muster up some funds, but now it's a
now it's a reoccurring fund now. So I guess the states decided we're no longer going to honor federal land patents, so we're just going to do our own deeds, and we're not going to tell them how much they actually own their property, and we'll tax them.
And they rely on that, like y'all said in the Crow interview, the futile system. It's a shame, and they rely on us. They rely on oppressing us. I'm not saying all government is bad, and there's tons of good actors. Always got those disclaimers. It's just I don't see things getting any better. It seems this news keeps tightening every year on political correctness, taxation going up. We get taxed more, and we can say less and do less in public.
Yeah, and think about it. The last time our government was in a surplus, I think, was back when Jefferson was in charge. I think, long time ago, and we have never got to the point at a society to say, you know what, you guys are pretty high up in morality. We're not out all trying to murder each other. How about we cut back on a few of the laws and taxes and reduce government down a bit? Not going to happen.
Too many people suckling at the tit. What I'm saying? Too many people lining their pockets. And I feel, I'll throw this out there, and you can agree or disagree. I feel that too many politicians, especially on the federal level, in the House and Congress, and the House and Senate, are not in the public light, but behind the scenes, on some corporation's payroll and pushing that agenda and not that of the people. And that can only last so long. If you're, this is a hypothetical analogy, okay? Just if you're on some Chinese steel company's payroll, behind the scenes, they're getting kickbacks or whatever, and you're sending jobs overseas. I mean, do the politicians not think about the future generations? Is it in fashion to say, hey, screw it, I'm gonna make money, and then when I die, y'all can deal with this mess?
Right.
It makes me wonder, what are they thinking? I know that Native Americans, they had at least several tribes had what's called the 7-generation rule, and they wouldn't do anything that wouldn't behoove at least 7 generations to come.
Okay. Yeah, that
And
sounds right.
yeah. Anyway, I think it's a crying shame where we're headed, and you can't avoid the news. I literally have to just, all I do is tune into YouTube, and I try to make sure that everything I'm watching is non-biased. And I talk to lots of people that offer different schools of thought on my views of Donald Trump and Alex Jones. People, I thought the sun's set in their ass, but the more people I talk to, they've kind of gotten rid of that, I guess, illusion. And I want to think as non-biased as possible. So I do accept people coming in with better or new or different schools of thought to challenge mine. That way mine, even though it might be broken down in the process, I'm rebuilt stronger, because I really want to be able to predict what's going to happen here in the future. And based off the research you've done, which I sincerely appreciate, and I think I speak from everyone that's tuned into you. Thank you. Hats off to re-examining something that hasn't been delved into in so long, that it's almost, even though it's sobering, it's refreshing to know that we do have rights we can exercise, even though it's probably so out of fashion, and even the actors in government that probably don't even realize, because they were taught and they've been exercising their power out of bounds,
Yeah.
so
And
long.
I know ever
Yeah.
since I had that Crow show too, I've
Yeah.
been getting emails in from people asking me for help and stuff. And I'm like, look, I can try to steer you in the right direction or what to
Yeah.
look at, but ultimately it's you. You can't keep calling me every time you have a legal problem. You need to understand law your own way.
Well, are you an attorney at all, or
Nope.
have you thought about going to law school to be a practitioner? I mean,
No, because I understand law better not being an attorney.
you can go get licensed and then go back to doing what you're doing now. I think you really make some waves. I think you really.
I probably could, honestly, but I don't like how the judges tend to control attorneys a bit as far as who gets to operate in their area. It seems like I don't think a lot of judges allow out-of-state attorneys, stuff
Okay.
like that, to practice in their courts. For me, it's very hard for me to memorize stuff that I don't agree with. So I had to leave college for that reason. I was studying for a bachelor's in business administration,
Uh-huh.
but it got to a point when I was studying business law where it would just bypass points that I'm like, no, we got to talk about that. That doesn't make any sense.
I
And
no, I understand, and I feel that way. I mean, in law school, knowing more than the professor in certain things, it's all egotistical. But I feel that if you maybe just, it's short-term pain, long-term gain. I feel, man. I really do, and none of this is kiss ass. I barely know you from Adam, but with what you've done so far, your passion for really like hyper refining things to its true origin, I
yeah,
think make a hellacious attorney. And
yeah.
you have people reaching out to you now,
Hmm.
and you're not even an attorney. You're not even a practitioner. I could only
Yeah.
imagine when you're like, okay, cool, you can start billing people. I tell you what, I'd come to you for any and all real estate things at a minimum, and I'd send everyone your way. And you can practice in other courts as long as you're represented. I'm pretty sure it's called pro hoc vice, and you just get a local attorney to vouch for you, and you can come on in and exercise your way.
I kind of thought about that at one point. And also in federal law, you don't have to be a bar member to be an attorney in federal courts.
Okay, you're teaching me something, or maybe there's something I forgot. Okay.
That's actually part of their legal system is, even though there is a lot of bar members in federal court, it's not written in their laws that says you have to be a bar member to serve. Now, your local governments between state of Michigan or wherever, they've got their inns of court. They may require you to have to go do that before you can even, practice in their area.
Yeah, lots of protocol involved. That's one thing. All I do is pay little fees and do this and that. I mean, I feel they're making it harder and harder to become a practitioner, you know?
Yeah, and I think I don't blame attorneys that much, but I think the way that they're getting trained a lot is to rule by stare decisis, where if it was a previous precedent set, we got to keep that going,
Continuity.
Um, yeah, and ever since that Marbury versus Madison case where they've established judicial review,
Yes.
they think that judges are the ones that have the right to determine what a law means and what it is. And so, if you try to come in with an argument saying something that is different than what the judge believes the law to be, you're going to have a very difficult time.
Very true, but that's why they have appellate courts, you know? I mean,
yeah,
at least get another shot at it, get another crack, you know?
Yep. And with that, I just wish that law school would study more originalism and how it developed over time instead of just going from case to case to case to case to case.
Yes.
We need to know what was going on in society, how it developed, because every time I hear a law school talk, they completely skip the land patent. That's like 80 years of property ownership just thrown out the door.
I feel it's all by design. They don't want anyone questioning the narrative, you know? Law schools
Yep.
have their own agenda too, and they're controlled by the ABA in a lot of aspects.
Right. Yeah.
Derek, with your passion with this, what else have you learned? Have you been on any other shows? What other topics would you like to delve into? I don't want you to have to sit here and regurgitate the whole pro interview, you know, but what else are you passionate about that we could delve into today?
Well, we can talk esoteric. We can go Freemason, Gnosticism, religion, anything like that. I'm really big into that stuff. I think religion is just as important as government, because before a society develops, you don't just jump into a government right off the bat. You have to have a culture that's going to accept the laws of the new government coming in. So the religion has got to come first.
Okay.
That kind of confusing to understand. So like before Rome kind of conquered Europe, they had to push the religion in first before their laws to get pagans or whoever to convert over to having a ruler. So they understood that guy makes the rules. We have to follow it now.
The mental conditioning, it's the lubrication for the machine, so to speak.
Yeah.
That's an interesting point. I've never heard that perspective.
Yep.
Wow.
Well, and we can go even further back than that. So the purpose, I think, of religion was, if we were all just kind of tribal living, but at some point, if somebody was trying to take charge, they can only fight off maybe 5 people. When your tribe gets too big, you could get overthrown easily. But if you then say, well, that guy that makes all the thunder up there and the weather, I talked to him. So don't mess with me. So when he gives me something to say, I'm the one in charge. I'll make the rules.
That way you can't be contended. I guess that way it's a discouragement factor.
Right. So now you have that. I think that was kind of a precursor for religion on all levels, so that you could have a bigger society. Is you had to have something that could not be physically defeated.
Wow, that plausible, I guess, like deniability or so that. Wow, that's really interesting. You really got my gears turning on that. Moving on to 9/11, which I love to talk about because I think it's just the biggest crock of shit on earth. Please tell me your views on 9/11 before, during, and after. Not where you stand today, having served in the military, with your experience.
Yeah, I mean, when it happened, and when I joined the military, I thought it was just an attack from another country. The news was playing it up, and I bit into it every little bit. While I was deployed, and we finally got some internet access and stuff, I start to see outside views, outside footage of different things that happen, and them controlling or showing the buildings how they match what a controlled demolition looks like.
Oh God, yeah, buildings and all this.
And I was like, you know what, that's true. And at one point they said the Empire State Building was hit by like a B-52 bomber back in the 50s or something, 40s or 50s. Mm-hmm. And it They hardly did anything to
Buildings are built to
they built.
code, not look,
Yeah.
not that I'm some civil engineer at all, but you can't erect a building in such a metropolitan area without it being able to meet certain standards of, an
Yeah.
impact from a plane X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, they can handle an earthquake, they can handle all this stuff. You're telling me a jet, granted it's a big piece of equipment coming in at fast speed, but it's still nothing compared to a full demolition like what you see, on TV. That's insane.
That
So
event, that staged event of what people call 9/11, it happened when I was in seventh grade. I'll never forget, I thought to myself in my seventh grade mind state, what happened to the integrity of the floors underneath that are still intact? Like
yeah,
if anything, I felt like, this building should maybe fall, like not the whole
right.
thing, it was just a red flag in my mind. And that was before YouTube and iPhones and all this kind of stuff. So I had to just sit with it. And it never sat with me well. And once I had free time and, the internet and iPhones and YouTube and all this stuff came along, I was able to research this kind of stuff. And, I tell you what, researching that leads you to so many other things that makes you rethink, because they pull a fast one days in the media, pull a fast one because they say, oh my gosh, this happened and this is who did it and this is why,
Yeah.
and we overlook so many details. And you have all these companies, these corporations that own the media, just going along with the same story that you don't really think to question it at first unless the event itself is just done so sloppily.
Yeah, so we didn't even know who the enemy was when I joined, right? We didn't even know who was behind it. Yet the news was saying there was Saudi passports. It was Saudi nationals that came and did it. So I'm like, well, why are we going to Afghanistan? and then when I was in basic training, they're like, oh, guess what? You're going to Iraq. I'm like, what the hell they got to do with this, Oh, there's weapons of mass destruction. Nope, we didn't find any of that over there. I'll tell you what we did. You can tell all your listeners, here's what we did first tour.
Please.
We went in, we secured the oil refineries, we guarded them, and then we transported that oil to the coast. What happened with that money and that oil? I don't know. They told us that we had to keep Iraq's economy going so that the people didn't suffer. So we're all like, okay, well, that makes sense, But their economy was not getting any better. They were supposed to be getting all these new schools, all these new whatever they needed to build up. I didn't see any major construction projects going on over there while I was deployed. So, and there was some, but it was mostly just us building our bases.
And we're hearing this, ladies and gentlemen, from a seasoned veteran. And again, thank you for your service. Well, let's take a step back. So before 9/11, have you researched or heard of the fact that Larry Silverstein pulled out an insurance policy 2 weeks ago?
Yep.
They call him Lucky Larry.
Bumped up his insurance plan right before the towers were attacked. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Made a couple billion there. Yeah.
Surprisingly, wasn't there that day, even though he's almost always there.
Yeah. And also, do you ever listen to Mel Fabregas on Veritas Radio?
Yes. Yeah, I hear him sometimes.
He had an insider from the NSA, a lady, speak. Did you ever listen to that interview?
I may have. I've heard so much stuff, so probably.
No, of course. Something that resonated with me is a lady who was a seasoned NSA worker for years. She was remembered the day 9/11 happened, and a lot of people in her office, at least one guy she can remember in the hallway crying, saying that this could have been prevented. And that is scary. Well, how did you know? I mean, that's unbelievable. And then also, how do you feel about World Trade Center 7 just imploding and coming down? There's
too much oddities that just destroys the narrative. I mean, when you look at the Pentagon being attacked right in the records room, right after Donald Rumsfeld saying, "Oh, we fucking lost all these trillions of dollars somehow." Oh, the records are destroyed now because it got attacked. Sorry, and then, God, there's so much stuff that goes with 9/11. It's just, it's hard to believe that anybody still believes the narrative.
Yeah, but I think that goes to show, how many people don't question the narrative, and how many people, I'll never forget, I tried to allude at this with a presentation because I'm a political science major, big deal, when I was at LSU, and I was trying to tell people how we are manipulated and herded like cattle in so many words. and kids in class started, snickering and laughing, saying I'm some sort of conspiracy theorist. I believe in the Illuminati. And I'll never forget. I'm like, I'm trying to wake y'all up. But Ralph Epperson, who I'm going to interview later on today, he said something. He said it's easier to fool people than convince them that they are fooled. And I think it's so true, because anytime I want to talk facts and split hairs like you do when you did this real estate and taxation research, anytime I want to talk to people and I want to talk facts, I'm like, did you see how the buildings fell? Is that normal? There's no sort of plain scraps left over. I just start highlighting all these points, and people, it's like their program, like it's like thinking stops, like an iron gate drops, and it's like, whoa, you must be a conspiracy theory, you must X, Y, and Z, and it's like, well, hold on, like, before you jump to any like divert course, can we stay on subject and actually entertain this conversation?
No, they want to protect themselves, so they want to start trying to discredit you.
Well said. That's exactly it. It's like, wait, I don't want to entertain this because this might lead to other things,
Yeah. Now, here's the cool thing about my job that I had in the U.S. Army for so long. I gained high enough rank. I had many soldiers underneath me, so I could just set up a meeting with my whole platoon, 30 plus people, and it's like, all right, I'm going to teach you guys a class on flat Earth. I'm going to teach you guys a class on. Actually, I used to do this. I would just empty the whiteboard behind me and say, list all the conspiracy theories you guys know. So we would write down Bigfoot, JFK, 9/11, and we just started talking about each of these topics.
You removed the taboo from it. You made it okay to talk about.
Yeah. So I think that opened up everybody's eyes. Like, you believe that too? Holy crap! Like it made it much more comfortable, and you'd be surprised how open soldiers are to those crazy.
Well, not only soldiers, I think everyone, and that's what I'm trying to do today too. Even though it's a slow start, and I barely have any subscribers, big deal. Not that I'm the coolest guy on earth and you need to watch me, but I mean, if I can help enlighten or spark the curiosity in one person, my job is done, and I just want to pay it forward. We're all being lied to from damn near every aspect. It's a crying shame, and strength to speak up. My whole life I was shunned because of my beliefs, and all I wanted to do was just follow the facts. All I wanted to do was just follow the money, so to speak. All I wanted to do is, look, there's dinosaur bones. How does this play into God? Or look, 9/11 happened, like, and then there's all this terrorist kind of crap now. We have all these, we can't fly anywhere unless our whole body is scanned. Like, don't you understand this is to usher in further implementation of control? And people just don't want to hear it. And I'm just like, and I'm surrounded by very smart, educated, and wealthy people. And I'm just looking around like, I'm about to lose my fucking mind. I'm not peddling bullshit. I'm not saying monkeys can fly and monkeys are going to come out my ass. I'm saying, look at this fact, like we can revisit it, and both see with our own eyes. I'm not trying to make up any bullshit. I'm not trying to offend anyone.
That's all that ignorance is bliss, That's what you kind of get taught as a kid. Just look, there's a lot of things that are bad in this world you don't need to know. Don't worry about it. Just be happy and live your life the best you can. It's like, but eventually I'm going to have kids. And then they got to come into this world after me.
That's exactly it.
So that's my main thing of why I do what I do. I would never be fighting property taxes if it was just me and my life. But I actually care about generations behind me.
Preserving the rights of the future generations. Otherwise, they're just going to continue to erode until we're all in a FEMA camp and hit with so many, the V word I can't say, I think I mean, it's a crying shame. Now, moving on, let's say, what do you feel about these recent events and this whole, I'll say, race war? I feel that the media is trying to create. What are your views on Donald Trump and recent events?
I think Donald Trump's just another player in this game. Honestly, I think he's been already pre-planned to be the leader long before, and I'm not just saying that because of Simpsons cartoon or anything. He was one of the first people interviewed when 9/11, when the towers fell. He was on TV and stuff like that, automatically trying to get in people's minds right there. So he has been brought up, he's so deep into everything, it's crazy. For one, he's total Kabbalist. though he claims to be a Protestant, and all this other stuff. I think Kabbalism and Protestantism are two widely different things. But he has his dad or his uncle was the guy that raided Tesla's place and kind of took over all the
All that
scientific
anti-gravitic magnetism technology.
right. And ever since then, we hardly were taught about Tesla. It's all about Einstein and Edison and.
Well, it ruined the whole energy paradigm that we all believe. It ruined the whole like we need to generate power through big electricity plants that huge corporations own, and we wouldn't need petroleum-based fuels that Shell, Chevron, the whole X, Y, and Z. They all that's their bread and butter.
Yeah, and nobody talks about like the CFR, the
Council
Council on Foreign Relations. And I think that's kind of like the upper echelon triangle above the federal government.
I completely agree. Yeah. Why don't you tell us all about that? Please, teach the class about that. Yeah.
Absolutely. So you have members on there. Quite a few of them are from the Rockefeller family. Many from other big corporations that basically are vying for the political agenda of the entire world, not just the U.S. These guys are also, a lot of them are members of the Bilderberg Group, who do secret meetings that you're not allowed to attend. You can hear, I think former President Barack Obama and a couple other people have mentioned the CFR members or how they were once a member of it, but that's all they'll say, or I've been informed by the CFR that this is what we need to do. So it's crazy, and that's more like the shadow government that everybody's trying to find. If you're not looking at the CFR, then you're probably just trying to pull from everywhere else. But
you're only looking at it from the surface level. You're only looking at it from the surface level, or you're looking at it from the narrative that the mainstream media wants you to. There's not much talk about that. And then you have the Trilateral Commission. Rome. You have tons of groups of elites, and even if you knew nothing of this, and even if you want to talk everything you and I say up to conspiracy theory, and we're all wrong, everything we say on this show is wrong. What the hell are they doing? What are they doing?
Yeah, and
what are they doing and why? Yeah,
that's a big problem with our capitalism, is that there's no cap on the capitalism. So as soon as somebody gets so rich that they can tell a country what to do, I think that kind of defeated the purpose of capitalism. Now we have a new monarch, and you don't even know who it is.
What are your views on Bill Gates, George Soros, Jeff Bezos?
They're all part of the same thing. I don't know if they're necessarily CFR members, but they have been behind the ID 2020 agenda that's coming in with Bill Gates.
Why don't we talk about that? Tell everyone what that is.
So that's going to be more the eroding of your civil rights and trying to either implant or have some type of wristband where you're constantly going to have a RFID chip attached to you, so everybody knows where you are all the time. And that's just an electrical signal. I mean, somebody could just type it into a computer, putting that signal somewhere else, and say, "Oh, I put you on the scene over here, so you were at the murder. Prove us wrong." There's so many ways that could be corrupted now. So it's not necessarily for your protection; it's for control.
How do you feel about cash money and digital money?
I don't know. I think any money system we have is corrupt.
No, I understand that. I didn't know if you harp on maybe the fact that the government's trying to get rid of cash and they want to monitor everything.
Yeah, and I think that once it's not in cash, we can't barter between each other anymore. Certain purchases will only be authorized.
Exactly. Yeah.
There's a lot more control on what we can buy and who we can buy from, and all that.
I feel too that once you do something the government doesn't like, they can get rid of your buying power. They can, I guess, obliterate or suspend your digital wallet, and then without that, I mean, what are you know,
Right.
what are you gonna do? You know?
Yeah, exactly. Scary thought. But you can always go back to barter and trade services and goods that you might have to trade with somebody else. And you got to kind of slowly get your way off the system. I mean, you going to wait until your whole life is dependent on the government, or are you going to start learning how to grow your own food and how to defend
Exactly
yourself and all that?
exactly what I'm doing now. I have a
Yeah.
huge garden now. Yeah, I don't want to be caught with my pants down. I got a gym, a YouTube channel, and a garden, all thanks to COVID. I did not sit around my thumb up my ass and cry like a bitch. I said I'm going to do.
Right. Yeah.
Not that that's
Let's
the
take
end all be
control.
all. That was just my take. But I mean, they're going to do it again. Watch if Trump wins again. I mean, I just feel the lesser of two evils. Uh, I mean, they're gonna second wave us. I mean, it's coming. You know, my dad passed by yesterday. Come tell me hey for a second, which I love when he passes by. It's very rare, but he's like, "Oh yeah, son, get ready, second wave." And I'm like, "Okay." So I haven't even been watching the news, and I heard that this was gonna happen. So, and
Did
that's
you
all.
say your father just passed away yesterday?
Passed by. He passed by.
Oh,
I'm so
okay.
sorry if that
I'm
wasn't clear.
about to say, I'm sorry, man.
No, 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 not at all. No, 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 no. He passed by yesterday, and he was
Okay.
telling me how there's going to be a second wave, and he tunes into the news. You know, I
Yeah.
try and tell him about all
Yeah.
that. You know.
And, we haven't even really got out of our lockdown here in Michigan. That our governor was
Oh yeah, y'all got a crazy governor.
tight. Yeah. But
Shit,
things just got lifted, but we didn't fully get lifted out of our lockdown yet. There's still things that we can't do. So only some places have been able to open back up for work and stuff.
And that's
A
with the
lot of
provisions of a
restrictions.
mask and all this distance and all that.
Still doing that. Yep.
On
So,
that's
this is
degrading.
just another excuse. And you know what happened to me actually? While I was in the military this last November, well, 2 months prior to that in September, I got my final flu shots, the last one I ever had to get in the U.S. Army. And that last flu shot messed me up so bad that I had an instant sinus headache that was just the worst thing I'd ever had ever in my life. And then I drank a little whiskey to help kick the sinus headache, relieve the pressure, and it worked. But I think
Oh,
my
yeah.
immune system got so compromised that I ended up with like a upper respiratory problem that I still have today.
Um,
So when I hear about this COVID stuff, I think, what if they just snuck in that stuff to the flu vaccine? And when we got our last flu shot, those that had weak immune systems got worse symptoms.
well, answer me this: do you think this whole COVID thing was kicked off because the impeachment didn't work?
No,
No. Okay, that's what
I
I want.
don't. I think that whole, pro-Trump, against Trump, all that crap is just to throw a Hegelian dialect or a back and forth. Like, oh, go here. No, wait, go over here. But don't go in the middle where normal people live. Go on one side or the other. You know what I'm saying?
Polarized. Yeah, no, no. Oh,
Polarize it. Yep.
great. Yeah, great point. Okay. Well, I do feel maybe you agree with me on this that this whole COVID thing can be expanded and contracted, and we're all this suspected infected, so it can be manipulated into what it needs to be for the agenda moving forward. And I don't think it's because anyone's worried about being sick. It's the government instilling fear in people
Yep.
uh, and pushing more and more control, making us wear masks and this distance. It's a sign of submission. It breaks family ties. It's not good. We're going to lose that personal touch, and it's going to actually reduce our immune systems. Can you
Right.
attest to that?
Yeah. Even look at Seattle. You know how like that's supposed to be a big
Oh,
protest movement when they took over the
Chaz.
capital area over there. They made it what Chaz now is
Yeah.
what it's called, and they're still wearing their masks. They're still following rules, but they just want to think that they're in charge or something. And I think that a lot of that was contrived too. But that just shows that you're not really against anything. You're just using this little
It's
freedom
attention.
movement
It's
to
a stunt.
pretend.
Distraction.
Yeah,
That way, people like you and I don't band together and have intelligent conversation about what's really going on.
right.
Everything is a discouragement factor. It's let's break your pride. Let's get rid of your hope.
Yeah.
Let's bombard you.
I think intelligence has become the new minority.
yes, I think it's fallen out of fashion, and there's a lot of people who think that they are intelligent. And I think there are a lot of people who are intelligent but subscribe to propaganda. There's too much,
Mhm.
they're very intelligent, but 90% of what you subscribe to is actual propaganda.
Right.
It's a
And even
shame.
when like you or I have become more mentally aware of what's going on and can understand and see the problems that are going on, we also have to control ourselves to not just be mad at everybody for them not catching on too. You know,
Yes,
and that's tough to do. That's really, and it's tough to just live happy when you know all this stuff has happened and transpired.
you've put something that was a thought. You've actually made it more tangible by saying it out loud. That is a frustration I have, and it does hurt, when I see people out wearing masks and people backing up when I walk by them. I'm like, you're not gonna get,
Yeah.
it's like, but I mean, when people only have the news to rely on, and
Hmm.
I can't get on Facebook to send you a link without it wanting to have like its own COVID bar, and
Yeah.
this racist news column that I have to like X out of and like swipe to get away. It's like the agenda is being pushed, and it's like we can't avoid it, and it
All
just
right.
so many red flags. But I guess I had a natural, not that I'm better than anyone or smarter than anyone at all, but I had a natural want or urge to reject all of this. Even 9/11 and JFK. It was just so hard for me to believe, that I became the black sheep because I just couldn't subscribe to these schools of thought. To me, it just wasn't well planned enough. It was just sloppy, or they're running over facts. There's gaps. It was hard for me to even indulge in all of this.
Hmm. Yeah, I think my growing up was a little more catered to it. Even though my dad grew up Catholic, he hated being in a Catholic family and going through abuse and stuff from that. My mom grew up more in a Protestant family, but then when they got together, they decided, you know what, we're not going to push religion on our son. So I got to they would still go to Sunday church and stuff, but they'd be like, "Do you want to go or do you want to stay home and watch cartoons?" And I went the first couple times, so I was like, "Nah, I'm good."
Yeah, it wasn't crammed down your throat. You had the freedom to choose.
Freedom to choose, yeah.
Mm-mm-mm. Or do you have any questions for me, or is there anything you'd like to go over? I don't want to sit here and hold the torch the whole time. I'd love to pass it to
Oh
you.
yeah, everybody would hate me if I didn't ask any Freemason questions.
Oh, please, yeah, go right ahead. Ask me anything you want to know. I have my free Masonic lapel on from Baby
Oh,
King
there you
out in,
go.
out in Miami. But I mean, everything
Oh,
I've heard about it. Anyway, look, you have control. Go ahead, start asking.
here's one thing I wanted to ask because I
Yeah.
didn't even realize, like on Crow's name where it says 777 at the end. I just saw recently that that might be a moniker for a Freemason. Have you ever heard that?
No, sir, not to my knowledge at
So,
all.
like, if you imagine the first seven and the last seven getting rotated so that they're triangle and compass, and then seven in the middle, the G is the seventh letter of the alphabet.
Okay. Yeah, they taught us from the schooling I went to, or whatever I learned when I turned in my catechism. The G stands for God, and all they
Yeah.
would do was make men better. And man, I feel like I said on other interviews, I was just so underwhelmed by Masonry, and I'm sure there's Masons listening to this now. I mean nothing by it. I thought it was some huge secret society. I guess from the outside looking in, I thought I was going to learn some sort of forbidden science. I was really interested. I was like, man, I bet you they understand anti-gravitics, or I bet you they know something. And I was just
Yeah.
so pumped. And so I turned in my catechism, which you just recite maybe 10 to 15 minutes worth of words or something, sentences. It's called your catechism. I got my third degree, and man, they just would grill and hang out and drink beer and relax. Good guys, and I was just like,
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't
oh,
have a problem with Freemasons in general. I think it's good to have. I think I would even like to study if they did go deep into it, whether it's Platonics or their theory of the Bible or anything into their beliefs. I have no problem with that. The only problem I have with it, especially me coming up through the military, was they heavily tried to promote us in the military, or recruit us. I mean, they have a lot of Freemasons in the military that tend to break the rule of fraternization with soldiers of much lower rank. So you'll see them group together a little bit and try to buddy up a little more. Um, they don't all do that, but I did see it a lot in the bigger command channels. The police have their own Freemasons of Police Fraternal Order,
FOP.
FOP. Yep. So that's something even my police friends have showed me and stuff like that. So I don't think we should have uh, an inner group fraternity inside of a group that is sworn secrecy and kind of helps fraternize more. I think that opens up a little bit of a door to corruption and big
Buddy buddy
organizations.
system.
Yeah, and if it wasn't in police or any type of government thing, I probably wouldn't have a problem with it at all. But when it opens up that door to secrecy, to things being able to be covered up, if there was something wrong that they may be implicated on.
Yeah, things were secret, but the secret stuff was only like old English words. I guess just what I learned from I speak from being a perpetual member of the state of Louisiana and Florida Masonry, and I met the Grand Masters at the Grand Lodges of each. I know them personal, and I have their cell phone numbers. There just must be more going on that I don't know of, or there's different factions or different states or something else. They're doing something different. But as far as this, and I'm not even, none of this is even a cover or anything. Like I'm barely involved in it. I just wear the insignia because I earned it.
Mm-hmm.
Man, it's underwhelming, and all they do is get, help give money to kids for scholarships, and it's just a bunch of old men that hang out. And
Yeah, I think but there's been a lot of accusations. I'll say this, and if there's accusations that are as bad as I've heard, they should be investigated. I've even tried to look up court cases where Freemasons, a lodge or whatever, was sued, besides like fees and stuff like that from members or anything, But I want to see like actual maybe crimes that were committed and stuff like that, and a lot of stuff. Just as big of an organization it is, you can't find crap.
Yeah, so you're teaching me, you know what I'm saying? I'm just a third, and I haven't been involved in much. And yeah, I believe you. It seems you know more about it than I do, and I was triaged. But like I said, with the whole masonry thing, I just think that there's other stuff going on at different lodges, or there's different groups that play by different rules or something. But as far as my experience, it's underwhelming. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think if from what I've researched, and I didn't do it, but I think the first 3 degrees are you're basically walking the path of Hiram Abiff.
Yeah, we just learned the tools. Yeah, we just learned about the tools. We do entered apprentice, fellowcraft, and then master mason, which is when you can actually wear the insignia. And from what I was told, you take a course on a weekend either in Baton Rouge or Lake Charles at a Blue Lodge or a Mother Lodge or something like that, and you learn your Masonic degrees, and it's just a weekend course, and you get your 32nd degree, and then 32nd and a half and 33rd were honorary, and 33rd was always called your white hat, and it was only given to, like, I'm talking decrepit men in wheelchairs, and they said if you ask for it, you'll never receive it.
Right.
And I learned that in Florida too. I said, is this true? Because in Louisiana they said X, Y, and Z, like, oh yeah, you never asked for your white hat. But I mean, I just think there's got to be different lodges where different demographics of guys cluster, and that, from at least the 2 lodges I've been to, well, I've been to 4, the Grand Lodges of each state, and then the ones that I joined. But like I said, underwhelmed. Good guys. They would just talk and just bullshit, man. Just that's it. Like,
I don't think it makes a bad person. I just don't like the institutionalization of it. That's all.
no, yeah.
What do you know about man? Because I hear about this a lot. I don't know if you look into flat Earth at all, but they love to pin the Freemasons on NASA and how they lie about our solar system and stuff.
I don't think it's Freemasonry. My research is, we brought over all the German scientists to salvage all that information. The ones that didn't go down to New Schwabenland and in Antarctica or flee to South America, we brought in a lot. We slipped them over to Belarus, and then we let them start NASA. We wiped them clean of all their sins and let them run NASA. That's my research where I've gone. I've interviewed a lot of people that have dealt with outer space and have been in outer space, and they're not astronauts on my previous interviews. And that's the storyline everyone seems to point to, even people
Well, the
that
one
don't
I'm
know
thinking of is the astronauts that went on the moon mission, the Apollo mission. I think almost all of them were Freemasons, and if that didn't actually happen, it's pretty convenient to have a fraternal order that's sworn to secrecy to help keep that hidden from everybody. So it's just a variable. I'm not saying it's true or not, but it's an
No,
interesting.
we're here to entertain these ideas. I don't know. I know that the moon landing that we've seen was, it was fake. I mean, there's no stars in the sky, all that. I mean, the whole thing was rigged if you really want to split hairs. But I know we've been to the moon, and the moon is very significant as far as the fact that it's not of this earth. This is me speaking from what I've learned. It refracts way too much light. It's in tidal lock, so we only see the same face. And what was I going to say? Oh yeah, the way it can perfectly eclipse and its distance from us. I think that it was moved there by design as a satellite to monitor us, and I know that we've been there many times. Go
You
ahead.
think that goes more into alien stuff, or is that more man-made?
I wouldn't say alien. Let me ask you this, man. How do you think DNA? Or wait, are you religious? Does religion fill in, I guess, the gap of human origin for you? If it does, we don't have to get into this.
I'm not faith-based in my life,
Okay.
so I'm good with any God existing.
Okay. I guess I don't really believe I don't really believe in a God. I don't say any of that to offend, but maybe entertain this with me briefly. I'm going to ask you a question. How do you think a complex double helix DNA originated on this earth?
Doesn't everything have a DNA in a way? I mean, animals have it too,
Anything
right?
organic has DNA.
Yeah.
From my research and from the fellas I've spoke to that are much more keen on this and I guess what we would call the afterlife, but have memories of very vivid um, outer space activities and have lived lives in other places in the solar system. These men and women who I'll be interviewing soon uh, speak of the fact that there was three, from what they can remember, times when humanity has become spacefaring. One about 100,000 years ago, one about 25,000 years ago, Atlantis, the Atlantis era, where a lot of the technology was lost over time. And recently, after World War II, whenever Hitler nationalized the Thule Society in unison with Marie Orsic, and no, it's not the Vril Society, and the technology that they had from the extraterrestrial contact they had. And they, after World War II, let America succumb to its ego and think we won, went down to Antarctica, which they colonized as New Schwabenland, and then from there established places in the planets and realized that they're not the only race out there, and that this whole solar system has been chalked up to much more sophisticated beings that will actually use us and other planets that have an arrested development as a food and energy and resource.
That's a big explanation. Yeah, I'm good with all that. That's fine. That can exist in my world. That's fine. I think I can't deny anybody else's witnessing of UFO or alien activity. I've seen a thing here locally a couple of years ago that
What did you see? Let's
had no
talk about it.
explanation for. Yeah, so I had a girlfriend at that time. We were standing outside in my driveway. It was dark, and there was a red light behind the trees right across the street. And it wasn't like the object wasn't that close, but it was close enough that we could see it. But it looked like it was
circular, just circular.
yeah, like a red circular orb, and it sounded like or looked like it should have been aircraft, and we should have been able to hear it because it was definitely something close. But and we watched it move behind the tree line, and we kind of walked down the sidewalk trying to track it down, and then it just kind of it zoomed away so fast that we couldn't even see it again after that.
So your orb zoomed too. I had a green orb in 2018 appear before my head while I was leaving a hotel, about 100 feet above my head. And I don't know if you're using a Mac laptop or something, but there's a little bitty green light, and it looked like that. I mean, this thing came to me, and then once I caught on to it, and it was kind of, you know, moving ever so slightly, it literally like did a C shape and then went and like zoomed.
Yeah.
And I was like, is this real? I was like, no one, of course, no one else was around to see
No
it.
one else, yeah. See, I wouldn't even tell that story if it was just me
Yeah.
seeing it, but it was me and my girlfriend, and she'll corroborate, you know, what I said.
I believe, yeah.
So that's cool to have that. I've had paranormal stuff too. I did a couple of ghost hunts. So at one point, I joined a professional paranormal group that's local here.
That's cool, man.
Yeah, got to go do a hunt with them. They went through 2 different houses here locally. And so we stay in the house all night long. We have different recording devices. I had an EMF detector. And I was basically, you have to walk around the house and see what puts out what first before you do anything, right?
You got to calibrate it first, yeah.
Yep. And so I knew what was what. And then, you know, not a whole lot happened the whole night, but we were at the bottom of the stairs in the basement, and said that if we're about to leave, we're about to be done for the whole night. So if you ever wanted to make your presence known, now's the time, you know. And as soon as we got up to walk around the basement area one more time, the person in front of me stopped, turned around and looked at me like with a crazy look on her face. And then I felt something go through me that it doesn't feel cold and it doesn't feel like your body's getting shocked. But if you can put those two together and just imagine that as an energy, you feel it go through you like a wave. And I was staring right at my EMF detector when that happened, and it jumped up to like an 8. And 8 is huge. Mostly walking around the house, you'll have like a 0.1, 0.01. So 8 is a very big electromagnetic field that just went through.
And so some sort of mass passed through you.
Yeah, and it passed through her first and then through me. And before I even said anything, she was like, I just felt something go through me. I was like, me too.
Yeah, I believe y'all aren't making this up. I just feel there's so much suppressed science and just so many things that we chalk up as paranormal, you know, that they could teach us in school, you know, if it were allowed, or if we could get rid of the taboo factor, or if it wouldn't open doors to other sciences or technologies that I guess have been forgotten or suppressed. Both.
Have you ever played with dowsing rods before?
What?
Dowsing rods?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
So what those are is it basically tries to detect like an electromagnetic field. And if you can imagine an object in your head and just think of that object, the dowsing rods are like bent metal coat hangers like this, and you barely hold on to them, and they'll steer you which way you need to go to find it. And once you're over top of it, it turns into an X. If you go past it, it'll turn back around towards you. Yeah. And I've done this with my soldiers. I'm like, let's go. We're going to hide your pack of cigarettes and see if you can find them. And all you have to do is think of them and then just go where the rods tell you. And they found them.
Holy shit. I need to look into that.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool. Kind of like a practice if, you know, I don't know, maybe like you lose your keys and for some reason your mind will kind of direct you towards it or something if you just think of the object or whatever.
Does it work things that aren't tangible, like dignity or virginity? Don't answer that.
Maybe.
With the last couple of minutes, I want you to say or do, or if you want, I can screen share and show your Facebook. If you want people to look at you, find you, or I can. How do I help promote you? How do I help you in these last couple of minutes before we get on the subject and keep chewing the fat?
The YouTube channel's better. I don't use my Facebook anymore. I try to keep myself secure, especially when I start talking about taboo topics. So, yeah, my YouTube channel is good. Yep, that's the Facebook. I probably won't get much correspondence with me on there. So, YouTube. I am starting up another website again so I can kind of help people with legal stuff.
Okay, we're going to go over everything. So just what do I type in? Your name?
Yep.
All right. So subscribe. Oops, whoops. We can watch all of your videos. This is your channel.
Yep. Mostly about law. I think I had a couple there also talking a little bit about religion and stuff like that. So yeah, and those are just playlists for. Yeah, there you go. That's the main
Yeah, I
one.
remember when you would do your classes.
Yep.
That's
Giving
awesome.
classes to soldiers, conspiracy, and I, would tell other soldiers do the same. You guys got to find things to kill time. Start doing stuff that's not necessarily on the book.
Do something
And
constructive and think outside the box.
right. That's not my episode. Mine is 225.
So he was featured on Crow, everyone. Let's do Crow, which is a huge deal. Here we go.
There it
This
is.
is what put Derek on the map.
So get this, everyone.
Okay, this is not. I'm not logged onto my premium right now on my other Google account, but this is how I got in touch with him, or where I was inspired to get in touch with him. So Derek is.
I've had a lot of great feedback from that. Very
really
little
knocked it out
negative.
the
I think there was one person who was trying to convince me to convert to Islam or something. I'm like, yeah, I don't think so, bud. You know how many years I've spent in Islamic countries? Not gonna happen.
That's funny. Well, Derek, if you'd like to wrap up by saying anything, we're at the bottom of the hour.
Thanks for having me on. You got a very interesting show. It's been great. Hopefully we can have a little more open dialogue and do this again. And I'm sure I'm going to have people in my group that research conspiracies going to be pissed, find out I talked to a Freemason, didn't ask every question they wanted, but.
Well, we got to correct their school of thought. Like, I'm willing to talk to them. I mean, like, it's not, I guess some people want to indulge in a fantasy that all of them are bad, or I don't know. I mean, it's not. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I've had people just freak out, and I'm just like, man, I joined it because, like you, I heard so much shit about it. So instead of freaking out, I was like, well, let me infiltrate it at a minimum, And it was approachable. There was lodges here. That's it. That's it. It's like,
Yep.
Don't freak out until you go. Have you tried to become one? I mean, I think maybe good Masons get a bad rap for, I don't know, bad Masons out there. I don't know, but I mean, we're not all bad. I mean, like,
for sure. For sure.
Yeah, we cut up and we talk shit, I mean, like, we're humans too. So, I mean, like, I promise, like, I don't have any upper hand against over anyone. There's just got to be some other, I guess, spin-off breakaway lodges that are a lot more elite to join that wouldn't deal with the likes of someone like me. I'm just trying to make sense of it,
Right.
But anyway.
Who knows, man? That's the great mystery.
Cool, man. Well, I'm gonna end it right here. I'm gonna stop the recording.